Violence Against Women and Homelessness, Understanding the Harm. We spoke to 33 practitioners and policymakers and to 34 women with recent experience of violence and homelessness. These women face violence and abuse from a range of perpetrators, including intimate partners, family members, strangers and paramilitary groups. The web of abuse. Violence from an intimate partner was found to be particularly widespread and took many forms. Together they create a complex web of entrapment that makes it extremely difficult for women to seek help or escape. Social impacts. Abusers engage in pervasive surveillance and controlling behaviours to severely limit women's independence. This isolated them from support networks and resources.
I had to be in a house while he was out working. If I didn't, there was a murder. It actually got to the point where I just sat there in a chair.
I wasn't allowed to do anything on my own. I wasn't allowed to go get in the car on my own. He would be with me, or one of the kids had to be with me.
Women experience significant health consequences caused by violence and abuse.
It was just like, why is this happening to me? What have I done so wrong to deserve it? Then it was depression, anxiety, trying to take my own life.
Substance use emerged the core coping mechanism for some in dealing with the symptoms of trauma.
I hit the drinking when all this started happening to me, and I just started getting into all the harder drugs.
That's where the alcoholism stemmed from. That was the only way I could cope.
My addiction is controlling me bad, but it blocks the pain out of it for a while.
Violence also had a devastating impact on women's material resources. Financial impact. The loss of financial assets and housing to abusers severely undermined their ability to regain control or leave abusive situations. When women had less financial independence, they were more vulnerable to abuse. Housing impact. Many women were forced to leave their homes due to abuse, resulting in homelessness and the loss of personal belongings, even when they held legal tenancy or ownership rights. Post-separation harassment often forced women to flee, leading to repeat episodes of homelessness. Justice system. Women were often failed by inconsistent police responses and difficulties obtaining and enforcing protection orders. This left them exposed to ongoing abuse and feeling that abusers could act with impunity. Perpetrators used the legal system to maintain control, exploiting the limitations of legal orders and dragging women through prolonged court battles. Child contact arrangements were also exploited, placing additional burden on mothers. Homelessness. The failure of the justice system to provide protection led some women into homelessness. Most women facing homelessness had to stay in congregate forms of accommodation. Temporary accommodation. B&Bs and hostels often fail to provide safety and support, exposing women to further violence. These environments frequently re-traumatised women, leaving them vulnerable to the same dangers they had sought to escape. Women who used substances often increased their use to cope with this trauma, were then excluded from services because of this. This forced many of them into using night shelters or sleeping rough, and some to exchanging sex for shelter, where they often experienced extreme physical and sexual violence. The compounding cycle. The failures of these services exposed women to further violence, creating a vicious cycle of violence-related trauma, trauma-related substance use, and substance use-related homelessness. Let's act. To prevent violence against women, to break its cycle into homelessness, to provide survivors with safe housing. The free phone domestic and sexual abuse helpline is available 24/7 for anyone affected by domestic or sexual abuse.